So one of the prime reason for everyone today learning Defender for Endpoint is when it comes to endpoint and endpoint security, right? So it's kind of an overlap between endpoint administration and also endpoint security. So maybe in bigger organization, we have two separate teams, one who only handles the security aspects of an endpoint, and there would be other people who would be handling the management part. Okay, so when I say management part, the operating system management, deployment, and the application deployment. Okay, but when you actually look at that nowadays, the relevance of deploying applications or deploying settings and deploying any kind of management, okay, so patches or drivers, everything is now related to security. So even patch management is comes under the security, right? So any vulnerable softwares, any outdated softwares, it still comes under the security, right? So and then out of so vulnerable operating systems, vulnerable software applications. Okay, so those are the two major vulnerability components. But in addition to that, we also need to protect a device at a base hardware level. Okay, so what do? We have to push encryption settings, right? So we also have, in addition to the encryption, we also have to do a lot of security settings enablement on the endpoint device. Okay, so it can be firewall. Okay, so it can be um, the antivirus, anti-malware. Okay, so a lot of inclusions, exclusions, and then enabling secure boot, enabling attack surface reduction rules. Okay, so we'll go through all of that. So what I am here to say is, nowadays, when I say Intune, it's more of a security tool. Microsoft sells it as a security tool. It doesn't sells it as a replacement of SCCM. Okay, so if you go to any of the Ignite sessions or any of the hosted Microsoft uh, sessions that you go through, it comes under the security according to them. Okay, so it'll be part of the security zero trust security landscape. So that is where Intune actually falls in. And then the what exactly is now Defender for Endpoint? We all know, in simple words, it is a simple antivirus software. Okay, everyone have computers. We all have installed antivirus softwares in our computers, right? We have installed whatever antivirus. Give me some names of antivirus that your home computers have or your computers have.
Sophos,
Then
McAfee,
Mm,
Semantic.
my one micro.
yeah. So all have commercial part of the licenses and also have all softwares or whatever names that you gave also have the enterprise level of management. Okay, so if you take a Windows computers today, the Defender for Endpoint is already there on your computer. Okay, so you can just enable it, you can just turn it on, right? So the same way it depends on the OEM, HP, Dell, and all. They can put in some free for 1 year, free for 2 years, all kind of antivirus and anti-malware solutions. Okay, so they come up with of all those. So the what we have done so far, what we know about all of these antivirus solutions is they are static enabled. I mean, they are statically scanned. Say for example, if you attach a USB drive, okay, for that to be scanning. Okay, so say for example, you come up with some virus in your USB drive and you plug that USB into your laptop. So the virus, how does the virus detect? How does the virus detected from your antivirus solution is because that virus hardware, I mean the virus the file of that virus is already part of the definition of your antivirus within your local computer. So if the new virus has launched, some Russians come up with some innovative creation and they come up with a file, okay, that file is now everywhere in the web. So every antivirus company will identify the file, then they create a hash of it. So that hash of the file is now as a virus definition. So every company, Sophos, McAfee, all of these companies should now update their definitions every day, every minute, every hour. Okay, so and your computer also should download those definitions. Only then that particular virus will be detected. Okay, so your definition should always be updated to get the scan of the latest uh, virus detection. Okay, so that is how all these days everything worked. Okay, it is not a it's not a the great it's not an unknown thing that we all know. We all know there is an antivirus solution installed on a computer which detects files, threats, any trojans, any viruses, any kind of infected files, any files, I mean, that cause infections. Okay, so to the computer, they all detected, they all get quarantined or deleted right away. Okay, so that is all our antivirus softwares. So, but if that is alone the case, okay, so it wouldn't really be a, I mean, there is nothing great about that. Okay, so we always have that, everyone think. But if you look at endpoint protections today, it's not just the file based thing. It is not just the static based thing. A lot of attackers are now attacking beyond that file. Okay, they get penetrating into the systems, penetrating into the network, not just by the files, not just with the simple files. Okay, they are going beyond the files. Okay, so it is a runtime attack. Okay, so almost all of the recent attacks that you see, the ransomware attacks, okay, they actually start with some kind of a spam email, some kind of uh, I mean, a local administration password leaks. Okay, some kind of I mean, everything they entered the system is simply because of the vulnerability that you already have in the system. It's not file related. Okay, so they got access to your someone's admin credentials, and then later the domain credentials, and the again they really established their footprint, and they are in the system for a long time. Okay, so they're monitoring it, they're using it when you're not there. Okay, the way it actually works is it's like thieves. Okay, they don't get immediately attack and then run away. Okay, so it is like they get into the system whenever they want, they observe the system, and one fine day they attack the system. Okay, so all these behaviors are also should be monitored. Okay, without any file, they can do some behavioral changes on your laptop. Okay, that term, that behavioral monitoring is also an important part. Okay, so all the modern day tools. Okay, so if Defender for Endpoint, if say for example, we have all heard of the highest competitor today is the CrowdStrike. Why CrowdStrike's being such a new company has beaten all of the other companies today? Okay, so it has beaten almost McAfee, which was the industry leader for 20 years. There was Symantec, right? There was Sophos, a leader for a long time, but there are only two or three companies today which has established a lead in the market. Okay, so Sentinel One is one of the product, right? We all know what is Sentinel. Did you all heard of Sentinel One and then CrowdStrike? Okay, all these are very latest product which just not only scan, which just not scan the only the products that are there. Okay, so they don't scan only the files, everything they monitor, and it actually monitors live. Okay, so your agents are now directly connected to their cloud instance of their services. So anything changes. If you say for example, when I say a behavior, imagine a behavior where you put a pen drive, and immediately after putting a pen drive, some PowerShell script has executed. There's no file, okay? So some PowerShell script right away in the RAM. There is no store, nothing is copied to a storage file, okay? So everything is happening in the RAM. So a modification in the registry, okay? So and then some deletion of the system files. This is called behavior. this has to be monitored. So who is monitoring it? So the defender immediately identifies, oh, I see a lot of changes in the system, and there must be some kind of a threat act, and that is where all of that actions will be stopped immediately. So that systems makes that decision, and it sends all that information to the defender for cloud. Okay, I mean the defender for endpoint cloud. I mean the service console. So their administrators will be able to modify, isolate the system, change the system, monitor, and then talk to you. Okay, so and then do some actions based on that. Okay, so normally it is detected and remediated automatically. Say, for example, today you upload the latest antivirus. Okay. So the latest antivirus, the virus, the malware that you do, okay, they're all up to date every time because they're all internet connected. So most of your virus definitions, they're up to date locally. And in addition to that, any virus that you bring in, if it's not there in the system, the definition is not there in the system. And if that virus is trying to do some unusual changes on the system, the file is immediately the hash of the file is immediately sent to the defender for endpoint. It finds that yes, it is the latest malware, that you don't have it, but we have it, and then that all the appropriate actions and things that takes place. What actions? Whatever actions you define, quarantine, audit, or even deletion of that file. Okay, so all that will be happening uh, immediately. Okay. So why do we have to learn Defender for Endpoint? Okay, of course, yeah, it is a part of Microsoft 365, and most of the customers already have the license. It is not just because it's a Microsoft product, simply because it is the, I mean, a lot of security companies, when they evaluate Defender for Endpoint, right? So they do all kind of simulations and attacks, right? So they try to do in all mimicking any action. Every test that they have produced, so they only see all these two products, CrowdStrike and Microsoft, I mean Defender for Endpoint, or maybe Sentinel One as a leader. Okay, so simply because every test that they carry out, every simulation that they do, every uh, and false positives are detected properly, false negatives are detected properly. So on all the platforms, it is not just Windows. Okay, on all the platforms right now, these are only two products in the market that is a perfect defender. I mean, there is a defense against any of the threats on your endpoints. Okay, so no one is saying that. Okay, so you can Microsoft is not saying this. This is a report from the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Okay, so you all know, you should know what is magic. I mean, the Magic Quadrant that they released by Gartner. Gartner is just a third independent vendor who evaluates all the products and says who are the industry leaders and who are the best products. Okay, so there's so many products we all know. Okay, there's Bitdefender, Fortinet. Okay, then ESET was there earlier. It was very good. Okay, so then Broad Semantic was here. So all these once upon a time were leaders. Okay, Checkpoint. Okay, so but now, only these two or three or four companies are leaders. Why? Because they have come up with EDRs. Okay, so they were the first one to come up with EDR. So EDR is nothing but endpoint detection and response. Okay, so what actually all these solutions do is they just don't detect, they also respond by whatever the action as our administrator created. They just don't just delete it. Okay, so delete is all fine. Okay, so all they do a instant response, and all of the detection is done right in the cloud. Okay, so why, how is Microsoft Defender unique compared to all the other solutions? Simply because it's agentless. Okay, so some are cloud powered. Okay, so some of the solutions that you saw in the previous slide are cloud powered, but some are not. Okay, so one of the main important thing is it's agentless. Okay, it's inbuilt into the operating system. We don't have to install agents and keeps updating the agent. So and then of course they claim, Microsoft claims it has all the built-in industry deepest insights. What it means is, all the operating systems in the world we take signals from. Okay, I'm saying when I say all the operating systems, all the Windows laptops, personal desktops, personal laptops. Okay, there are people who agree for signals to be sent. Okay, telemetry to be enabled. For all those customers, they already have enough signals that are being sent to the uh, Microsoft database in the backend. They know, they say they know we have all the signals, all the identities, all the device information, and we know how to make decisions and detect any vulnerabilities, any kind of threats that could possibly have. So this is automatic security. Again, they talk about remediation in minutes. Okay, even if there are, and at scale, even if you find a file that's attacked on 10,000 systems. Okay, so they say we remediated everything on the systems within minutes. Okay, so as you start using the product, okay, so you'll come to know. Okay, but one of the uh, main reason is simply because with one license you don't have to use multiple products. Simple. That is how these solutions are built in today. Okay, so say for example, Qualys. What does Qualys do? Qualys just detects vulnerability operating system and vulnerability applications. And vulnerability is nothing but misconfigurations in the systems as well. Okay, so Qualys on server can detect all the outdated softwares, outdated Windows operating systems, or vulnerable misconfigurations opening port 80. Okay, so any vulnerable, no, firewalls not being enabled, unnecessary telnet is open. Okay, so ping is open. So all are the these are all the things Qualys detects on a system because these are vulnerable things. Vulnerable is nothing but attack has not happened. It could lead to an attack. Okay, so system is vulnerable, weak, so that someone can come and attack. So you don't have to use separate products because the Defender for Endpoint itself, the first component that you see here is threat and vulnerability management. Okay, so it basically replaces your Qualys or any VMware Carbon. Okay, so there's so many other products. Okay, so you don't have to have a separate vulnerability or TVM component as a separate application installed. So this figure, you keep seeing it every day, every time if you're a part of Defender team. If you're a part of Microsoft 365 security team in any company. Okay. So these are the six things. Okay. There is another one. Okay. Bit there's a bit old picture, but that's fine. It's relevant now. So these are the six different things that Defender for Endpoint does. Okay. So one is the TVM, which we already said. Okay. So all these sensors, right? So what you see. Okay. Second one is attack surface reduction. So in short, what attack surface reduction means is you have, I mean, there are some policies that you create so that attacks on certain systems will reduce. I mean, the surfaces you need to disable or minimize or configure so that the route in which the attack comes in, you're protected. Okay, so in layman terms, if you want to say, if you have a house, if there is only one door and a one window, the chances of uh, thieves attacking your home is less, right? So you, because you close down all the windows, you, I mean, in fact, you put a concrete wherever there are open windows. You assume that your house has four doors, two windows, I mean, seven to eight windows, a balcony, okay, a balcony without a grill. Okay, so all of that, your house is open. So there are a lot of chances and ways in which the thieves can enter. So attack surface reduction is a concept where you minimize the attack. So what you do, you just open one window and one door so that you protect that always and monitor it, and you permanently close all those windows and doors. Okay. So again, it's not, it's, you don't have to close. Okay. So here it again comes with usability, user experience and everything. So one of the easiest example I can say when it comes to attack surface reduction is block USBs. So if you block USB on a laptop, Okay, there are high chances that none of you don't have to get into any viruses that are taken away from public internet or personal computers or anything. Normally, that is your public earlier at least. So back in Windows 7, Windows XP days and all, we all know as soon as we insert a USB drive, a lot of infectious malware would ham and destroy the system, right? So we have seen all that. So um, that's reduction. Okay, so say for example, there is an as a attack surface reduction where in your company, if you don't have an Excel, I mean, people who are using Excel, okay, and in your company, you find out that none of them use Excel formulas, what do you call that? Some plugins, right? So plugins, formulas, connections, whatever Excel uses, these are all processes which creates another sub processes, right? So you can actually block them. So that way, what actually happens is you're reducing another surface, attack surface. So blocking browser extensions. So you can actually block the browser extensions in your company so that no one downloads those extensions or enables those extensions and start using them. Okay, it is indeed okay. When there are so many attacks based on extensions. So you know you got the picture of what exactly attack surface. Okay, so attack surface is trying to minimize as many open gates on your system by configuring audit rules or stricter block rules. And actually, the next generation protection, the third one that you see here is nothing but the actual antivirus component. Okay, so you see the real antivirus part here. Okay, so the endpoint detection and response is nothing but, as I said, it's a EDR. Okay, so all these this was a traditional solution. Okay, so this is also a traditional solution is nothing new, but all these two things is where everything started to change in the endpoint protection scope. Okay, so these were all the solutions that were there by Qualys, Symantec, Sophos, and everything. But the Sentinel one, CrowdStrike, which are just 10 years old companies, right? They have started this automatic investigation, remediation, reporting, adding AI into it, okay, adding amazing graphs or data collected from millions of systems. Okay, so they are so fast. Okay, so as soon as they identify any kind of process or any kind of behavior, they detect and they respond as well. Okay, so they send out alerts, they create incidents automatically. All of the incidents are all automatically resolved. They give you a report. Okay, so the job of the security administrators will keep reducing. Okay, so and that is the reason why these tools are very costly. Okay, are very expensive. You don't get trial versions even that easy because they're always because there's a huge computational power to do that. Okay, so and that is the reason why they're not offered. They're expensive. Uh, so AIR, okay, I mean, which is automatic investigation and response, is again the same thing. So whatever is it's more or less EDR detects the same, but AIR is it does the complete investigation of the threat. Okay, so you can initiate an investigation. You can click on a computer, or you can click on a threat that it was detected by EDR or an incident, and then you can click on that. I'll show you. Okay, but you can click all of those things, incidents, and then use AIR. Okay, so it'll remediate and it gives you a report. Okay, so these are the two things that are more modern approach of because they are always connected and they're monitoring, they're checking your behaviors, the system behaviors, how is the system behaving, and then they report. So the Microsoft Threat Expert is the last one. Okay, so what it means is uh, Microsoft. people will come, I mean, you can talk to the experts that Microsoft has to speak about the issues that you have, the files that any questions on your product. Okay, so what it means is they give you a support kind of an experience. When I say support, suddenly your company is attacked by a ransomware. You don't know what to do. You don't know how many systems have been impacted. How do you mitigate it? And do we really go and pay a ransom to the I mean, whoever has threatened you, right? So whether all of the data that has been captured, is it backed up to your OneDrive or any other backup solutions? So all of these, you can actually take the help of the Microsoft people and then um, identify how much of the impact has some kind of a threat attack has been done on your system. Say, for example, a lot of attacks using files also. Okay, so you find a file, you don't know whether it is a harmful file or whether it's a file that has potential to harm any of our endpoint servers, databases, anything. Okay, you can go and submit the file to them. Okay, they will analyze and see and then come back and give you the report. Okay, so that is for all of these six components or even more, you actually need a license called as Defender for Endpoint Plan 2. Okay, so the last three requires Plan 2. The first three, even if you have Defender for Endpoint Plan 1, you will get it. So Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 is part of E3 license. Okay, if you have Microsoft E3, they can use the first three things. If you have E5, they can use all six. Okay. So we'll just quickly go through. Okay. So one by one. Okay. So how it actually works is the threat and vulnerability management uses sensors on the endpoint to detect vulnerabilities. Okay. So it can prioritize vulnerabilities based on an analysis of all the detections in your organization. Okay, not just in your nor not in your system, whether endpoints contain any kind of sensitive data or not, and any threats, landscapes. Okay, so this capability it's fully cloud based. Okay, it integrates with the rest of the Defender for endpoint. I mean, Defender for Office, Defender for Identity, and cloud apps. Okay. So every product here actually leverages something called as the intelligent security graph. You keep hearing the word once you go advanced. Okay. So it is nothing but all the data is accessible and reachable across M365. Okay. All of that data is analyzed and some kind of correlation has been established. Okay. So that is what exactly happens. I'll go quickly. So the reason why people use TBM, the vulnerability management is, so it's very it's difficult for scanning. Okay, so what are the so it talks about the pain points, what the customer pain points are. Okay, so it's very difficult to do periodic scanning. It has blind spots where when I say blind spots is not even if you scan, you'll not be able to identify any threats. Okay, so we need to prioritize and compensate. Okay, and then this is how the reporting works. Okay, so this is purely a risk-based approach. I will show you how to configure. So if you look at this, how vulnerabilities, how difficult it is to scan the vulnerabilities. Okay, so this shows you the list, and it also shows easiest to exploit and hardest to discover. Okay, it starts from here. The easiest to exploit is extension vulnerabilities. As I told you, right? The browser extension vulnerabilities. And there's one example, Grammarly Chrome extension. Okay, so that created back in 2018 a huge problem with almost many companies. Okay, a lot of data was lost, a lot of passwords were stolen, IDs were stolen, some security things were stolen by just getting into this Chrome extension. They got some of the passwords that were stored in Google Chrome, and then they finally attacked the systems. So application runtime libraries like JS framework, with the JavaScript, 7-zip code, and then comes the application vulnerabilities itself. Okay, so this is easy, and this is easier, and there's much, I mean, difficult. And then OS vulnerabilities like Win32 elevation of privilege. Okay, so these are all attacks that could have been protected if you have a strong TVM, I mean the vulnerability management software. So hardware vulnerabilities are the most difficult to detect. It depends how powerful is your tool, and even if it is powerful, it depends. Attackers always find one or the other way. No matter how strong your security company is, attackers are much stronger. They will identify any kind of vulnerability in your system and try to sneak in and exploit your company. Okay, so what is vulnerability? As I told, all these four things. Okay, operating system misconfiguration, which is nothing but out of date, was one thing, and you don't configure anything security rules in your operating system. You cannot enable firewall to public, to open to everything. So that is an operating system misconfiguration. Okay, so same thing, application misconfiguration as well. Your applications, they are already securely built. If it is standard applications like Adobe, Chrome, Firefox, or any other applications, they're already securely built. So they try, I mean, even if it is security applications, all of the communication between your server and the client will happen through an HTTPS, through a proper certificate assessment and authentication. So that application misconfiguration, say for example, you have some application which is talking to a port 80 on the server with a HTTP plain text, then that will definitely flag a security concern in your console. Okay, so the same thing happens, I mean, network misconfiguration. If you have a poor Wi-Fi network, okay, or a public Wi-Fi network, I don't know about your company. My company, if I connect to a public Wi-Fi outside of my home network and I go connect to some free guest Wi-Fis, I get an email, I get a chat from my security operations team that you have connected to an unsecure network. Okay, so any mall, anywhere you go where they say it is a free Wi-Fi, just connect. Okay, so for some reason, my company detects it as a unsecure network and they say you need to shut it down. Okay, they say don't connect it. So account misconfiguration also is a part of TVM. Okay, so the password policies, permissions, everything. Okay, so and how does this product help again? Yeah, that they spoke about. Yeah, so it's a one-click remediation via Intune SCCM. Okay, so the attack based when I say remediation, they don't really do a remediation. A ticket actually gets created in your Intune console and your SCCM console, so that the person identifies and updates all of those applications. Okay, so now I'll see what is attack surface reduction. So attack surface reduction is basically simply hardening the system. That's all is attack surface reduction. Okay, so again, we cannot really stop everything in our system. Block and do everything in our system. Okay, so there is a way where you can balance between what is your organization needs, what you totally attack on the system. Okay, so if you actually look at what are we doing, we will be probably configuring every configuration from the Intune console. Okay, the entire ASR will actually be done in most organizations from their Intune console. So each one has a different meaning again. So we'll go in detail. Okay, so say for example, the first things. Okay, so all of these things we can actually do in ASR. Why we do it? What is all this? It's up to you to expand your knowledge. Okay, so say for example, so mainly security people will understand. It says block Office apps from creating executable content. Okay, so each item here, uh, or any item. As I told you, right, there are some around 10,000 plus settings. Out of those 10,000 settings, you will probably understand another 4 or 5,000. If I say block Bluetooth on Windows devices, everyone will understand. You don't have to go and research and learn about it, right? So here, if I say block Office apps from creating executable content, yeah, the other, as I told, again, the other 6,000 people will not understand. So it's ad hoc learning. Some people will understand today, some people will not understand, but security team, I'm even talking about the security team, they will not understand everything. It's unlimited. The learning is unlimited, everything is coming new, okay? But if you really wanted to have some standard learning, so attack surface reduction has somewhere around some 40 policies. Out of these, all these are these, okay? So this 40 policies, you can sit and read what exactly these do. It says block Adobe Reader from creating child process. Okay, so usually what happens is Adobe Reader is an application. Office are all these are applications. When you click something, okay, so when you click Adobe Reader, if it wants to modify something or reopen something, it creates a child processes. That child process, if you go to the system, even today, if you go to Teams, Teams is a main Teams.exe is a main application. And when you open in the process tree and you minimize it, it opens multiple teams.exe, teams.exe. These are all child processes. Okay, so what people say is those could be a threat. Okay, so because they are a threat, okay, we can block them. Not we really don't need many of the things. Okay, while the main application teams.exe is doing its job, it might require some mini processes to be child processes to create it so that it does something in the backend. Okay, so teams have designed that way. It doesn't impact your main thread, main process thread in the process. The memory that's allocated for that process, it doesn't hamper. But what it will actually create is a multiple child process with a different process IDs, and then it will do its job. So that is a parent process and a child process concept. So if you want to reduce threats, they're simply saying we can block all of these threats. Uh, You can execute, okay, see, block executable content from email client and webmail. If there is some exe attached onto your email, if I double click on it, .exe, it won't execute. So that is again the policy that we define here in ASR. Or block only Office communication applications from creating child process. Okay, so these are the things that we do. Okay, there's a lot of again. These are these are the things that you should understand, okay, as both endpoint administrator and the security administrator, a lateral movement and credential theft. Okay, so lateral movement is see credential theft. Where does the password is saved on your Windows? It's in the local this one. Okay, this ISASS. That's Windows local. I mean LSASS. So Windows Local Authority Subsystem.exe, right? So it blocks. So if you enable this policy, it says we can block the credential stealing from here. Okay, so these are the minimum things that every company does, and we should do it. Okay, so we will see all of those policies that are creating in Intune. So this is another thing why this picture is important is to for you all to understand uh, how the attack actually happens and why attack surface reductions are very important. If you look at this, there is something called pre-breach and post-breach. So you get an email from Office 365, you open the email and you say something. Okay, so you either open the email through 1 second. Okay, so you get an Office 365 email, you open a web mail through a web browser. Okay, so you save. Okay, so you try to save. We can harden it every aspect of our things. Okay, so reducing email attack vector. So you all understand the attack vectors. Okay, everyone should understand. These are all basic terminologies. Okay, so attack vector is nothing but, as I told you, right? Attack surface reduction when we were doing it is one kind of an attack vector. So if you stop using Office 365 email on a webmail itself is a proper one. Why to worry about even that attack? When you stop it, they will not stop it. Okay, but you cannot stop it. Using emails in your company is a basic thing. So we should allow, right? We cannot block everything. So uh, we can actually, there is a something called as Edge. Okay, so in Edge, we have something called again called as Smart Screen. So Smart Screen or a browser hardening, whatever you do, the Microsoft Edge browser creates a virtual container to sandbox that file that you have sent and checks whether there is an attack. It does in the virtualization layer. Okay, so that is the reason why those sandbox virtualized layer file run that we do doesn't get actually attacks on your real physical systems. Okay, so that is called as the smart screen enable. Okay, so Edge has that capacity, I mean capability where it runs in a container, a virtualization container of a certain application or a certain thing. Okay, so just give me a second. I need to answer a call. Okay, so I mean, this picture really shows where and all we can protect and configure something so that it doesn't attack. Okay, so that is the whole point of this. So that is one place. Okay, so now email is done, browser is done. What and all I can do in a system? So I can enable credential guard. Okay, I can and a system guard. Okay, I can put Windows 10 in an S mode, which is a secure mode, but normally it is not done. Okay, so again, Windows in S mode is a different setting where it is very few things work. Nothing actually works on the system. So there are only few applications, few things, few settings, few things are happening. Okay, so S mode is completely a different thing. But uh, uh, companies like pharmaceutical companies and army, okay, all these people use S mode. Okay, so there is absolutely no attacks on that system because there are very minimal things in the operating systems that are enabled. So it's a wonderful thing. I think is the greatest thing that Windows 10 or Windows 11 has come and people liked it, and very few companies, secure companies, use it. So and then application control. Okay, so there's something called app control. We'll see. This is what I said. Okay, so app isolation, edge